Hi, I'm Dr. Saira.
And I'm Texas Peek.
And our question that we received today is an interesting one.
Yeah, and it's viewed, depending on who you are, in very different ways. So
it's a very simple question. Here it is. What's better, compliance or defiance?
Well,
compliance or defiance?
Okay, so let's explore that a little bit. So most of society would say that compliance, I think, would be the acceptable answer.
You should follow the rules, because without rules, there's chaos.
Right. But if we don't break the rules once in a while, we don't get anything new.
And there's never a chance for growth or change.
Right. So you see this with kids, right? I have 3 beautiful children, and they all have different ways of dealing with life. Some are more compliant. That worked really well in the school system, right? My middle daughter liked the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't struggle. My son, not so much. And my other daughter, not so much. So they were labeled as,
defiant.
Hard
difficult
kids. Hard kids, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they didn't follow the rules, or
right.
They broke the rules deliberately.
Right. But I think what we'll discover as we pull this apart is that there's probably a middle path.
So for most of my life, I thought I didn't really understand defiance. I didn't understand. You know that about me. Come on now. I was like, why can't you just follow the rules? If you follow the rules, life would be so much easier for everyone involved.
Right.
Right? I didn't get it. I felt like people who were being defiant were simply difficult, like you said, right? But what I'm starting as a parent, what I see is that there's a need to sometimes for kids to push back, right? To kind of create their own identity and create their own boundaries, and not just go along with whatever they're asked to do all the time, because then I know for myself, like as I'm growing, I'm seeing how that compliance actually kept me really, really stuck and really small.
Oh, okay. So small is an interesting word.
Right? Yeah, like trapped and small.
So
safe, but small.
Okay. And then
defiance alienated me from people. Like when I actually pushed, when I actually did that pushback, it's like...
Well, I witnessed that, if I may.
Yeah.
So we've done some work together, and sometimes you'd have to kind of rev up. For 2 or 3 days, you need to come at me with something. You say, "What you done?" Not like that, because she's, maybe a little bit like that.
I'd be like, no.
Yeah, with the eyes.
No.
Yeah, with the eyes, right?
Yeah.
But you had to kind of...
like muster it.
Yeah, that's a good word, yeah. So maybe both of those things.
Well, neither is actually expansion. Neither is actually released. Neither actually is relaxed, right? Because both are for some outcome. Compliance, why we follow the rules and go along with things, is so that we don't, well, for me, so I don't get in trouble.
So you feel safe.
So I feel safe. And why do we push back? And
I'll do that one.
You do that one? Why do people do that?
I did quite a bit of pushing back in my life.
Yeah.
It is so that you feel in control of your situation. You're not going to tell me how to do this.
I'm going to decide.
I'll decide where I cross the street and other things.
We have this all the time when we go for walks. Texas is like going off. Today I did a good job though, right?
You were better, yeah.
On our walk, I just followed along, and I was like, okay, there's no...
But the other day, there was a little strip of grass that we had to step across on our walk that clearly would be a huge penalty from the grass police. And you walked like 45 feet around the grass.
Yeah. So then I would walk on the grass.
So that's a really good example. I wasn't right, and neither were you.
Right. And we could laugh about it and have some fun with it. But I think with in my other relationships, it's been a contention point.
Okay.
Right? Where it's like, why can't you just follow the rules? And the other person's like, why can't you just relax a little?
Right.
And it's like we're not seeing eye to eye on it. And it's because both of those positions are coming from a place of wanting to stay safe or in control, or like it's like, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, is not actually an expanded...
Right. And the problem is then whatever, if it's a relational thing, then if one person feels that we need to follow the rules and one person feels that we need to maybe push it back, now the thing that's between them becomes the problem. And it becomes really hard to reconcile that.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So in that simple example, we could have had an argument about that.
About the grass?
Yeah, we could have though. Right?
People do.
Well, people find reasons to argue about lots of things, right? But what's the solution? What's a different way? So if that's compliance isn't right and pushing back's not right,
right, There's
we
got to be
screwed
another
then?
way.
There's no. So what we talk about is both of those things keep us in this contracted state.
Right.
And if you are in your compliant state, you're feeling some sorts of feelings, right? Maybe
fear,
you're feeling fear, guilt, shame, those, right?
Yep.
And maybe from the pushing back, I'm more angry, looking for a fight kind of a thing. But none of those emotions come out of the expanded state and in that flow state, right?
So if you've been watching our videos for a while, you'll know that our underlying philosophy is that there's only two states: alignment and misalignment,
right.
which is very different than the way a lot of mainstream psychology talks about our inner state. There's a lot of research and a lot of language around the misaligned state.
We're explaining it, right?
And explaining it and understanding it and picking it apart. And we're saying, well, that's just kind of one thing, but there's this other thing over here, which is the aligned state. And our methodology takes people back to that aligned state in a really, really simple, predictable, repeatable way.
So then in that example, we had this discussion earlier this morning. We actually talked about making a video, which is unusual for us to actually do that. But it was like, so then what would be the solution in that conflict? Well, if one person chooses to be in alignment, they have what they need because they're in that open space where they have everything that they need and they have a different perspective.
And they're not looking to the other person to necessarily agree with them or be just like them. They can hold the difference. They can hold that complexity of this other person is relating to the world in a different way than me. I don't need them to be like me or even understand me because I'm okay as I am when I'm in alignment.
Right.
And what is alignment? If you want to learn more about that, check out our website, theexpansionproject.com. There's a new book out now called The How by Monique Peck, who's Texas's wife. And she kind of really explains in an in-depth way these two states and a really simple, that methodology I was talking about, that methodology, how to come back to that state of alignment. So check out the book. It's available on Amazon now.
And so leaving you with this, if you see yourself in one of those two states often, know that there's a way out of that trap.
Whether it's compliance or defiance, if you find yourself stuck there, there's a third way.
Yeah.
That's it for today.
Great. Have a good day.